Guys, of the new 2020 Darklords, I'm going to be showing you guys a few different builds of the deck. One of them is going to be basically a Lockout. We're basically using some of the newer cards. We have Tez over here, which is just going to allow us to go ahead and make some rank 9 plays, specifically going into the True King of all Calamities, which will basically make it game. I mean, this is another one of those decks where first turn GG no re, easy play, because once you make this, your opponent cannot use any monster effects, and pretty much they can't do anything. And then you have Dragon of Red Eyes for the follow-up. This guy pretty much quits. This is probably one of their better turn 1 plays. You can also Christia lock your opponent out of special summoning as a surprise mechanic, which I'll also show you guys. But like, this is something that you can make, and it is very, very powerful. But I'm going to show you guys another play over here. So some of these replays are going to be from me, some of them from you guys that send them in, like my boy Teriyaki here. But I'll give you guys a few different like ideas here for the build. But this one has a little bit more back and forth. So we're going to go ahead and see the Yugioh. Honestly, the new Darklord cards are actually really good. It makes the Link monster absolutely insane if you can pull it off. It's so hard to pull off. Honestly, if anyone has played Darklords, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where the deck pretty much like loses to one hand trap. Like, the deck needs so many draw power cards, and it bricks already on its own. And then like, if you lose that on that Yugioh, or that one card that searches out your any Darklord card, which is always going to be Yugioh because you want to go through cards, it bricks. So many times you will brick in this deck, just as a heads up. It just, that's the way it feels like when your opponent has like one negation. The deck cannot play through 2 negations most of the time, sometimes 1. Which you'll see. You'll see me play through some negation that my opponent has, but for the most part, it is not a very consistent deck for being able to play second. Even going turn 1, if you don't VFD in this deck, what do you have? Yugioh go ahead and go for another play. It's relatively weak, unless you play it with the Christia, which I'll basically get into. If you could summon Christia turn 1, you're pretty much good to go, and you'll be a-okay. But yeah, like I said, there's different ways to play the deck. We have the Morning Star. This pops everything, and on top of that, your opponent cannot target fairy monsters you control with card effects. So it basically means that your opponent can't impermanence. You can't do a lot of different things to the Christia, because once Christia comes out, your opponent basically loses, because every deck needs a special summon for the most part, unless you're playing against like some rogue anti-meta over here. So that was like the VFD build. This one is going to be well, this duel was just kind of cool over here. I was salty. Okay, this one I played during live stream, and I was like, dude, this guy has everything. So he goes ahead, makes Final Sigma, has an Ash Blossom and an Imperial Order. This deck usually just ends off of this, and like that's it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. He has a card to stop me to go ahead and use Pleasure's Effect. Then we're gonna go ahead and get him Imperial Order, and I'm like, okay, now I have another dead card, I have to sit here. But Rebellious Darklord lets you surprise your opponent by getting out a boss monster that can pop everything that they have, or you can actually have the free effect of Monster Reborning from your graveyard or your hand every single turn as a quick effect too. So you'll see my opponent over here. He basically kind of messes himself up with Imperial Order. So this is an optional effect. You can either pop everything or special summon a fairy monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. In this instance, I am going to use the effect. So he goes ahead and pops this. Usually, because you can add a Math Pack card, they usually go for the card that lets you reborn Final Sigma, but since he Imperial Ordered himself, it messed him up. So he's going to go ahead and summon Diameter, go into the Adion, and then this card makes it so you can't target any of your fairy monsters. Your opponent can't target any of them. So I can go ahead and activate this effect again as a quick effect to go ahead and bring back Superbia. Superbia can then activate its effect over here. I want to mention one thing. Superbia did get its effect off of this because there's no other interaction, as it is a quick effect. This card misses its timing on a lot of stuff, so this card actually loses a lot of value in Darklords, which is really dumb, but that's part of the way that the deck works, which really sucks, because Superbia, if it didn't miss the timing, it would actually be so much better, because then from here I could go Superbia into Christia if I had it. I didn't have it in this instance, but I mean, Christia would be auto win anyways. This is this where, okay, this guy, this is playing through a negation here. Again, the deck can't really play through negations. As far as the extract goes, the only important card is pretty much Lucifer. I had a bunch of Super Poly targets, but when you Super Poly, your opponent just quits, and then I can't show you the gameplay. So I ended up taking out Super Poly, but I can see it being okay in the deck, because you have a lot of room for the extract. All it is the Darklord Link monster, which you guys will see here. So this card is absolutely amazing. Darklord of Pleasure gives your opponent a Darklord, but in return, you get to add any Darklord from your deck to your hand, which is usually going to be Morningstar because that lets you pop everything. So you'll see, I'm going to go ahead and add Yugioh, go ahead and cycle through some cards, then bring back Yugioh, go ahead and copy another card, then bring back another Darklord. Then this card lets me copy another card over here, so we'll pay 1,000. Go ahead and cycle through some cards. I actually was playing a lot of different builds here. I went ahead and used Polymerization just because it was a little bit faster, because sometimes your opponent will disrupt your other trap card play, and it obviously makes the deck much faster. So with Polymerization, we can go ahead and just activate this effect, and since we use Morningstar, we get to pop all cards our opponent controls, and then he can't target anything. We Lure of Darkness, and we can't do anything with this, so we just send them all to the grave. But it's actually not bad because it's special summoning from hand or graveyard, so it doesn't matter at all that we went minus with the alert. It's actually super minus, so we just went -3. But this is something important to mention. If you are activating this effect in response to a chain for most part, especially if their opponent's other card has an effect, if you Superbia, this is what I was talking about, where you missed the timing, I can't go Superbia into Christia. If I just went Christia, it would have been a better play. I was thinking I could go Superbia Christia, but I learned the hard way, so don't mess up like me over here. Not that it really matters here, because he's like, oh, I think he wanted to target a special stone monster, but he can't target any of my stuff. So this card plus Christia is the go-to card, and the go-to play, which you'll see, I think in this duel? I don't know. This Christia is made in one of these. I don't remember which one. But nonetheless, it's pretty much just a lockout. But the deck, it just has a lot of consistency issues. But this one over here is going to show you guys how good the Link monster is. So we'll pay 1,000, bring back Superbia, bring back Tez, and then we can go with the Link monster. Link monster lets us add one. Important thing, this card's effect where it lets you summon another fairy as you contribute from the graveyard, it's not an additional summon. I didn't know this. I thought you could just get this effect, and I was wondering if this game bugged. No, you actually still have to not use your normal summon, which it technically doesn't say you get additional summon. I just thought it was like, oh yeah, dude, just banish from the graveyard to get an additional summon. But nonetheless, we go ahead and bring back the Superbia. If we had a Christia here, this would have been like a go-to play. I guess this is, oh, this one's the mirror match play. This is also another great card, the Perform Pop Opera. And I'll give you guys both of these different builds here. And then Succession is great too, because that lets you go right into the Link monster, then use Superbia to bring back another monster potentially if you happen to have the right plays here. So here's the important play. Let me swap it so you guys can understand how insanely broken this combo is. So this card gives you the ability to banish the cards and tribute summon, right? So Darklord Morningstar over here has this like insane effect where if it's tributed summon, you get to special summon Darklord monsters from your hand or deck equal to the number of effect monster your opponent controls. In this instance, there's 3 monsters here, so you're going to be able to get out triple monsters, and there's no restrictions. And then you can proc all other effects. We got Yugioh going to be getting its effect. We have Nergal over here, which is going to copy. It's basically, a lot of stuff just lets you copy something that's in the grave. But Ugo back lets you go ahead and send a Darklord card, so you'll have those targets to go ahead and utilize, which is absolutely amazing, and it makes the deck so much better. And then you can go ahead and copy, if you want to go ahead and copy the fusion, then go into the Lucifer Morningstar, because remember, you made it with Morningstar because you just brought it out via the effect of tributing. And then you can go ahead and pop everything your opponent has, and then from there, when you special summon 3 monsters, at this point, it's pretty much going to be GG in majority of times over here. And then we have one last play over here. Which one is this one? Okay, this is another mirror match here, where it's just Christia. I mean, honestly, you summon Christia and you pretty much win, but we got Dark Lord Pleasure. We're giving our opponent another card, and this is okay. One thing I want to mention with this play is you can give your opponent whatever. It's not actually good if they are playing mirror match, but on this instance, I didn't know what the other guy was playing here. But the thing is that if you go ahead and give them a card, when you pop everything, this card will go to the graveyard, and then you can just Monster Reborn it. So it's actually okay that you're giving your opponent. So he's going to go ahead and pop this. I'm going to chain it in response, and then I'm going to go ahead and use all my cards, go for my Lucifer, and since it used that card, I popped everything, and then he didn't have a follow-up plan on top of that. Your guys already know. There was one where I summoned a Christia, but it doesn't really matter. It's like, you guys get the concept of it anyways. So let's go ahead and hop right into the deck profile for, wait, that's the wrong one. Oh, this is my favorite feature with this this one. I think it's this one that I wanted. So I'm going to export these decks, and then I can just go ahead and go into deck edit, and it just goes and has both of them over here. So these are 2 different builds that I was messing around with. So originally, I was trying out with a lot of different builds of this deck, like I mentioned before. So this was like one of them. At one point, I was like, dude, I'm just going to throw a Magical Mallet in here. Performapal Popper-Up is also really good because you can start throwing cards in the graveyard, which could be excellent for some of your plays because you'll need to copy cards in the grave. So I'd probably suggest that over Mallet, honestly, but this is like one of my favorite cards. So I was playing the Performapal Witch over here, which allows us to go ahead and fusion as the pendulum effect. It's just once per turn, but all you need is once. I liked it better than Poly, but one thing that I want to mention is that you can only use Fairy Monsters effects with Darklord of Pleasure. So I like this card for giving my opponent the card, and then I would be like, oh, you got an extra card, you got an extra monster? Okay, cool. This card, when I go into Morningstar, I'd proc those effects too. However, I originally was playing King of the Swamp, and King of the Swamp, unfortunately, can't activate if you use Darklord of Pleasure's effect. So for that reason, I dropped it and decided to run this, which you can get to its effect sometimes more than once, but pretty much the go-to play with this deck is to go ahead and summon this, pop everything your opponent has, and then Christie lock them. That's probably the best thing that you can do, unless you want to play the other build, which is more of a rank 9 deck, which it goes into VFD, and then you can follow up with a dragon, which you guys already saw in the first play. So there's a lot of different ways to play the deck, and I'm just going to give you guys just like a brief, like, I'm just going to mouse over the cards on this one. This one I probably wouldn't recommend, to be honest. I just feel like the deck has a lot of consistency issues, but the whole goal with this was to turbo out this and Christie lock them. Trading could be also another option, but I just wanted extra consistency, and because trading is not like 8 or higher, like you only had, what is it, 6 targets with it. I know that you can search out some of the cards, but I just feel like this deck actually has consistency issues. If you want more of a viable deck, there's also Darklord Rebellion. This is another decent card. Lets you send one and then destroy a card on the field, which is excellent. And then you have Enchantment over here, which lets you go ahead and take control of your opponent's monster. But I feel like the deck isn't really that great at being able to be a grind game deck. If you can do it, you can copy a lot of effects and eventually just kind of win because you're copying the effects of a card, then you activate that card, then it gets put in the graveyard, and then that card can copy the effect of the other card. But the deck just lacks consistency, I would say, for the most part. But I think that this would be a better one for the build. And like I said, I'll mouse over the cards so you guys can kind of get an idea of what you can play. If you want to, go ahead and run some of these cards. I think Extravagance is a really good card in this deck because with Desires, either one is totally fine, to be honest. But I just really think that the problem that I had with Extravagance originally was that it conflicted with the other draw power in the deck, because obviously you can't go for other draw power. But I don't know, I feel like the new Darklords, they're a little bit lackluster. That's my personal takes on it. If you guys think the deck is better, if there's other ways to manipulate the deck to make it better, I think the best play is literally Christie or VFD turn 1, which there's much better options if you're looking to make a deck solely based around those cards. But that's how the new Darklords can play. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn on the bell so you don't miss out on more new Yu-Gi-Oh! Gameplays, as well as some decks. And if you guys want to send me in other replays, feel free to go ahead and do so at AzneyesReplays@gmail.com. Shout out to my boy Tarak for hooking me up with his VFD build, because I thought that one was pretty good too. Oh, you know what? Totally my bad over here. Because we didn't copy this one. We didn't show off his build. Let's go to decks here. I love this new feature, by the way. It's so good, being able to just, again, copy. But this was his build, which was more so based off of going for the rank 9 plays, adding in some of the Valkyrie cards to go ahead and have a little bit more consistency with that, as well as with a Dragon of Red Eyes. But like I said, I feel like this deck can pull it out, but I have problems with this deck with consistency, and I think a lot of people also have. Every time I play against this deck, they start doing a couple of things, and then they'll go summon an Ixchel, and then activate Ixchel's effects, and then realize they end on like a Superbia Ixchel, and then they just go, whatever, quit game because I didn't open up good enough. It happens a lot with this deck, and it's just the deck. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.